Ladies and gentlemen, champions in the making, listen closely. You were not born to live a life of average. You were not crafted in the image of greatness only to walk in the shadow of mediocrity. Deep inside you, there's a voice, quiet but persistent, that's been saying, there's more to do, more to give, more to become, and the only thing standing between the life you have and the life you were born to live is your decision to move. People keep asking, when will my time come? But the better question is, what are you doing while you wait? Because the truth is this, as it helps us. Promotion comes to the person who's merely available. It comes to the person who's prepared. You don't get promoted just because you're present. You get promoted because you've proven you're ready. God is not a God of random blessings. He's a God of ordered steps. And if your preparation is out of order, your opportunity will pass you by like a train you weren't ready to board. Look around at any person who's walking in purpose, and I'll show you someone who spent time in the shadows. They trained when no one was clapping. They studied when no one was watching. They spoke life over themselves when no one else was speaking at all. While others were begging for the spotlight, they were sharpening their sword in silence. You see, the preparation room is the place where champions are formed. Not on the stage, not in the likes or views, but in the quiet behind the scenes grind that most people never see and fewer are willing to endure. We live in a generation that glorifies speed, but purpose requires depth. You can go viral in 30 seconds, but becoming valuable takes seasons. And if you don't respect the process, you'll end up standing in rooms you're not built to sustain. You may impress people for a moment, but the lack of preparation will soon expose you. That's why success without foundation is a setup for failure. The same way a building needs a solid structure underground before it rises, your life must be grounded in unseen disciplines before you're elevated into seen positions. God is not in the business of microwaving leaders. He marinates them. He puts them in the slow cooker of life, letting them develop patience, wisdom, resilience, and character. And if you're not willing to stay in the oven until you're ready, you'll step out undercooked, and the weight of your calling will crush you instead of crown you. So, if you're in a season where it feels like nothing is happening, maybe everything is happening, and you're just in the season of preparation. Preparation is proof of belief, as it helps. If you believe the door is coming, you'll build the resume. If you believe the stage is coming, you'll rehearse the message. If you believe the clients are coming, you'll refine the offer. Faith is not just something you feel. It's something you do. When you prepare, you're sending a signal to heaven. I believe you're going to do it, so I'm getting ready now. Preparation puts a demand on the promise. It draws the future into the now. Too many people are treating the waiting season like a wasted season. But the wise know that what do while you wait determines how well you rise when the time comes. David was tending sheep when the prophet came to anoint him king. Joseph was managing a prison before he managed a nation. Esther was being prepared behind palace walls before she ever walked into purpose. These people didn't just get promoted. They were prepared into promotion. Don't mistake stillness for stagnation. Sometimes God has to sit you down to build you up. Sometimes he hides you so he can heal you. Sometimes the best thing he can do for you is delay the spotlight until you have the strength to stand in it. Because promotion without preparation is pressure that leads to collapse. But when preparation comes first, promotion becomes a platform, not a prison. It becomes a calling, not a curse. You don't crumble under it. You carry it with conviction. Faith is not a feeling. It's not an emotional high. It's not goosebumps during a song or a temporary spark during a sermon. Faith is a force, an invisible engine that moves visible things. But here's the catch. That engine does not turn on without your participation. Faith without movement is fantasy. It's a beautiful idea with no action behind it, a dream with no feet. You can say you believe all day long, but if your hands aren't building, your feet aren't moving, and your voice isn't speaking, then your faith is just noise with no authority in it. People love to talk about mountains moving. They quote the verse. They shout it. They hashtag it. But what they forget is that Jesus said, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, move. He didn't say wish or think about it or post a graphic. He said say, meaning there's action involved. Even mustard seed faith has a mouth. Even tiny faith moves. So if your faith has been silent, if it hasn't pushed you into motion, if it hasn't made you uncomfortable, then it's not faith. It's imagination dressed in church clothes. There's a whole world of people praying for harvest, but refusing to sow seed. That's not faith, that's manipulation. You don't get to skip the system of sowing and reaping and expect divine results. God doesn't respond to begging, he responds to belief. And belief is proven by obedience. If you believe in the business, why haven't you built it yet? If you believe in the calling, why haven't you answered it yet? If you believe the door is opening, why are you still sitting down? In the Bible, every miracle was preceded by movement. The blind man had to go wash. The woman with the issue of blood had to press through the crowd. The lepers had to go show themselves to the priest. Peter had to step out of the boat. Faith always demands that you do something before you see something. It calls you out of comfort and into obedience. If you're waiting for a guarantee before you act, you're not living by faith, you're living by logic. And logic never birthed a miracle. Faith doesn't always make sense to your head, but it should always make sense to your spirit, because your spirit recognizes divine instruction even when your mind doesn't fully understand it. You move not because you see the whole staircase, but because you trust the voice that told you to take the first step. And every step you take builds something in you. It builds confidence. It builds discipline. It builds capacity. Some of you aren't seeing results, not because God isn't faithful, but because you haven't moved your feet in weeks. Faith will always feel risky because it stretches you beyond what you control. It demands that you trust a God you cannot see in a process you cannot predict. That's why so many people stay stuck. They want divine outcomes with human control. But that's not how faith works. Faith requires surrender. It requires you to put down your blueprint and pick up obedience. You don't get to script the timing, the method, or the outcome. You just have to move when he says move. You don't have to be perfect to walk by faith. You just have to be willing. Willing to look foolish. Willing to be misunderstood. Willing to start small. Willing to keep going. Because movement is what separates the dreamers from the doors. Faith isn't proven in how loud you shout. It's proven in how consistent you step. And every step of faith activates things in the spirit that standing still never will. The Red Sea didn't part because Moses had faith alone. It parted because he lifted his staff in obedience. Heaven responds when earth moves. People talk about waiting on God, but often God is waiting on you. He's already spoken. He's already equipped. He's already opened the door. But you're still sitting at the threshold asking for another confirmation. At some point, the delay becomes disobedience. At some point, hesitation becomes rebellion. Faith doesn't stall, it starts. It doesn't waver, it walks. It doesn't just believe in the promise. It moves toward it like it's already real, already done, already yours. You cannot ask God for overflow and stay unwilling to make room for it. You cannot cry out for increase while clinging to the habits of lack. Praying for rain without digging ditches is like preparing for a wedding without inviting the guests. It's spiritual laziness disguised as hope. You say you're believing for more, but your actions say you're expecting less. You say you're ready, but you haven't built a structure strong enough to hold what you're asking for. God doesn't bless containers that don't exist. He fills what's been prepared. Faith doesn't just ask, faith acts. If you truly expect rain, you dig the ditch today. You take the shovel, you break the ground, and you move the dirt before a single cloud shows up. That's faith in motion. That's belief in action. Anyone can shout when the sky is dark and thunder is rolling. But can you get up at sunrise with a clear blue sky and still dig like rain is coming by now? That's what separates the casual believer from the one who truly walks in divine expectation. There's a story in Scripture where the prophet tells the people to dig ditches all over the valley because rain was coming. Rain they couldn't see, rain they didn't feel, rain that made no sense in the moment. But they dug ditches in dry ground. They created space in faith. And when the rain came, it didn't just water the earth. It filled the ditches they had prepared. It helps us. That's how provision works. It meets you at the level of your preparation, not your emotion. Many people miss their miracle not because they didn't pray, but because they didn't prepare. You can cry all night for a breakthrough. But if you wake up the next day and take no new action, what are you really saying to God? You're saying you trust Him in word, but not in deed, that your faith is sentimental, not structural. God is not emotional about results. He's intentional, and He honors those who prepare like they believe Him the first time He spoke. What kind of ditch are you digging if you're asking for financial increase? Have you built the budget to steward it? If you're asking for a relationship, helps us. Have you healed the parts of you that sabotage love? If you're asking for business growth, have you upgraded your systems to handle more clients? God won't send more if it will crush you. He sends more where there's space for it. Digging ditches is your job. Sending rain is His. We want supernatural outcomes without sacrificial obedience. We want to live like farmers in a drought and still complain when the harvest never comes. But the laws of heaven still honor the work of preparation. That's why vision boards don't replace discipline. Affirmations don't replace systems. Hoping for better doesn't replace building for better. You can't just speak the rain into existence. You have to live like it's coming and move accordingly. Preparation is not glamorous, as it helps us. It's dirty, tiring, and often invisible. No one claps for the person digging a ditch. There are no lights, no crowds, no applause. But that work in private is what makes overflow possible in public. Most people quit halfway through because they don't see immediate results. They walk off the job because the sky still looks clear. But the ones who know the nature of God understand obedience always precedes outpouring. Even if the cloud hasn't formed yet, the instruction was already given. Rain doesn't come to those who wait passively. It comes to those who prepare aggressively. If you haven't dug, you're not ready. If you haven't built, you're not serious. God gives based on capacity, and your capacity is not measured by what you wish for. It's measured by what you've made room for, as it helps us. You can't complain about dryness if your shovel's still clean and the ground you remains untouched. The only way to prove you're expecting rain is to start digging when there's not a drop in sight. Salt has always symbolized something deeper than taste. It's never been just about seasoning food. It's about preparation, preservation, purity, and power. In ancient times, salt wasn't just something you sprinkled on a plate. It was something you used to keep things from spoiling. It kept meat fresh. It preserved value. So when you put salt in your shoes, you're not adding flavor to your life. You're declaring that you're ready to walk in something that won't rot when pressure hits. You're saying to the world, I've been made stable, preserved, and set apart for a purpose that won't decay. Readiness doesn't start when the opportunity shows up. It starts when you treat every day like training camp for your next level. You don't lace up your shoes once the game begins. You lace them up before the whistle blows. Salt represents that you've treated your life as sacred preparation. You're not waiting for the world to acknowledge you. You're walking like you've already been sent. Salt says, I've prepared my mind. I've purified my motives. I've preserved my vision. I'm ready now, and I'm walking accordingly. A salted shoe is not just a metaphor, it's a mindset. It means you've stopped walking like a tourist in your own destiny. It means you're done tiptoeing through opportunities like you don't belong. You've been through too much, sacrificed too much, and grown too much to keep walking like a beggar in rooms you were born to command. Salt is confidence, but not arrogance. As it helps us, it's knowing that the path may still be long, but you're no longer afraid of the steps it takes to walk it. When a person puts salt in their shoes, they stop waiting for permission to show up fully. They stop looking for external validation and start drawing from internal conviction. People may not clap, people may not notice, and people may not agree, but salt doesn't lose its purpose just because the crowd is quiet. Salt is ready whether people appreciate it or not. You become dangerous to the enemy the moment you stop seeking approval and start walking in readiness. That's when doors start opening, not because you knocked louder, but because you finally walked like you belonged on the other side. As it helps us, most people think they're waiting on God, but God is waiting on them to act like they're already equipped. You keep saying you're not ready, but the truth is you're afraid of being seen. You're afraid of being stretched. But salt doesn't shy away from pressure. It preserves through it. It endures through the heat, through the weight, through the exposure. When you put salt in your shoes, you're not saying, I'm perfect. You're saying, I'm prepared enough to begin, strong enough to stand, and willing enough to grow. A salt also represents covenant. In Scripture, salt was a symbol of enduring agreement, something binding and unbreakable. So when you salt your shoes, you're stepping into covenant with your calling. You're saying, I'm not dating my purpose anymore. I'm married to it. No more half in, half out. No more showing up only when it's easy. This is full commitment. Real readiness isn't measured by excitement. It's measured by consistency. Anyone can be motivated on Monday, but salt says, I'm still standing on Thursday when the feelings are gone and the fight is real. Some people don't struggle with vision. They struggle with readiness. They see the dream clearly, but their life isn't structured to support it. Their schedule doesn't match their prayers. Their habits don't match their goals. Their mindset doesn't match the level they say they want. But salt forces alignment. It demands integrity between what you say and how you step. You can't salt your shoes and keep walking in circles. When salt touches your path, it turns wandering into direction and delay into discipline. When you're salted, You're not surprised by opposition. You're prepared for it. You don't get shaken by resistance. You've been fortified for it. Salt gives you staying power. It gives you weight in the spirit. When the storms hit, when the critics come, when the pressure rises, salt reminds you who you are and why you started. It doesn't just keep you flavorful. It keeps you faithful. And when you walk with that kind of readiness, you don't chase opportunities. You attract them because you're already carrying the evidence that you're equipped to handle them. Your destiny will not be delivered to your door like an Amazon package. It must be pursued, protected, and preserved with discipline. The dream is free, but the grind is costly. Destiny is not for the wishful. It's for the committed. You can be anointed and still remain average if you refuse to submit your life to structure. Discipline is the bridge between divine intention and earthly manifestation. Without it, you're just sitting on untapped potential, waiting for a breakthrough that can only be unlocked by obedience. Too many people are shouting over prophecy, but sleeping through process. They want the throne, but avoid the training. They love the calling, but resist the conditioning. But God never calls you to a place He hasn't prepared you for. And the preparation is almost always painful. Discipline isn't supposed to feel good. It's supposed to make you good. It's the daily death of distraction. It's the quiet, uncelebrated decisions to say no when everything in you craves a yes. It's doing the right thing when no one's watching, no one's clapping, and no one's validating you. Discipline is a love language for your destiny. Every time you wake up early to pray, every time you turn down a temptation, every time you study when others are sleeping or work, when others are scrolling, you are saying to your purpose, I value too much to be casual with you. You don't get divine results from a lazy life. You can't want to lead nations and not master your mornings. You can't ask for increase while still living in indulgence. Heaven doesn't release weighty assignments to lightweight lifestyles. You are not waiting on a sign, you are waiting on structure. The future you want is hidden in the discipline you're avoiding. You don't need more prophecy, you need more priority. Your next level is not complicated, it's consistent. One disciplined hour a day can transform your entire trajectory. But you keep talking about goals you're not aligned with. You keep blaming timing when the truth is your routine hasn't earned the access. You can't have the crown without carrying the cross of consistency. Discipline isn't just about action. It's about identity. When you become disciplined, you're not just changing your behavior. You're rewriting your self-image. You start to see yourself differently. You carry yourself with a different energy as it helps us. You walk into rooms with integrity because you know what you've sacrificed in silence. You start attracting favor, not because you're lucky, but because your lifestyle has become magnetic to purpose. Discipline makes you dependable, and dependability makes you promotable. Everything in your destiny is expensive, and discipline is the currency. You cannot live on sale and expect full price outcomes. You can't cut corners and expect straight paths. There are no hacks for greatness. There are only habits. And until your habits match your hopes, you'll live frustrated, praying for fruit from seeds you never sowed. You can't just want the results. You have to fall in love with the repetition. The grind, the repetition, the mundane, that's where discipline does its deepest work. Discipline is what keeps you when motivation disappears. Because there will be days when you don't feel like it. There will be seasons where progress is slow, applause is absent, and every part of you wants to quit. But discipline says, I don't serve my feelings. I serve my future. Destiny is not shaped by how you act when you're excited, but how you respond when you're exhausted. Anyone can be consistent when it's easy. Discipline is proven in the pressure, not the comfort. The enemy doesn't fear your talent. He fears your discipline. Because a disciplined person cannot be easily distracted. A disciplined person can't be bought, can't be baited, and can't be broken by temporary circumstances. Destiny flows to the one who refuses to flinch. When your daily habits begin to align with your divine assignment, there is no force on earth that can stop what's coming to you. Not because it's magic, but because you were mature enough to stay the course until heaven opened the door. You don't need to tell the world you're ready. Your routine already told them. Readiness isn't a declaration, it's a demonstration. It's visible in your habits, reflected in your schedule, and proven in the way you manage your time when no one's watching. People say they're waiting for their big break, their opportunity, their moment. But what they don't understand is that the door opens for those who've built the discipline to walk through it. If your daily routine doesn't match the weight of what you're asking for, you're not ready. You're rehearsing a fantasy. Your routine is a mirror, not a mask. It doesn't hide who you are. It reveals it. You can say you're focused, but if you keep hitting snooze, scrolling endlessly, wasting hours in entertainment, your life is already preaching the truth. You're not serious. You can say you want to lead, but if your mornings are chaotic and your evenings are unproductive, the results won't lie. The secret to readiness isn't found in ambition, it's found in alignment. When your daily steps reflect the size of your destiny, readiness becomes a natural byproduct. You don't attract opportunity with talent alone. You attract it with preparation. Your gift may get you noticed, but your routine determines if you'll last, as it helps. Many people get glimpses of greatness, but collapse under the weight because they never built the muscle of consistency. You can't handle overflow if your systems are leaking. Your readiness is not proven by how loud you shout, but by how well you've structured your life. The person who builds quietly in private eventually stands boldly in public, not because of luck, but because of rhythm, as it helps us. Readiness isn't loud, it's steady. It's built in the moments you could have taken the easy way out, but didn't. It's formed in the decision to keep promises to yourself when no one's holding you accountable. That level of integrity is rare, and that's why it's valuable. When your routine reflects discipline, excellence, and intentionality, you become dangerous to average. You start breaking the gravitational pull of mediocrity. You stop repeating cycles and start rewriting them, not by force, but by formation. Many people are praying for promotion, but stuck in patterns that disqualify them. They want elevation without execution. They want influence without internal order. But heaven watches how you handle your now before it releases your next. Your routine is a signal. It tells God, the world, and even the enemy, whether you're prepared or playing, if your habits still serve your feelings instead of your future, then you haven't surrendered to the discipline your purpose demands. A destiny-sized life cannot be supported by a comfort-based routine. If your schedule is still built around convenience, you're not pursuing purpose. You're preserving comfort. Growth doesn't happen in ease. It happens when your daily structure forces you to stretch. The version of you that can handle next level responsibility isn't born through motivation. It's shaped through repetition. That means doing what's required even when it's inconvenient, uncelebrated, or unseen. Excellence isn't an event. It's a lifestyle. It shows up in the small things before it shows up in the big ones. How you do the ordinary reveals your capacity for the extraordinary. If you can't be trusted with one disciplined morning, how can you be trusted with a platform? If you can't lead your own time, how will you lead others? Stop glamorizing the dream and start mastering the discipline. Your routine will always tell on you. It doesn't care about your intentions. It records your investments. When your habits line up with your hopes, your life starts moving in rhythm with your calling. You stop living reactive and start living proactive. You don't need to force doors open. Your routine becomes the key that unlocks them. You stop wondering when it'll happen and start walking like it already is. Not because you're arrogant, but because you've done the work. When you live ready, opportunities don't catch you off guard. They meet you already in motion, already sharpened, already aligned.